My name is Vikramaditya Motwane. I am a writer, a producer, a director. I don't know in what order I am what. I've directed Udaan, I've directed Lootera, I've directed Bhavesh Joshi Superhero, I've directed a movie called Trapped, I've directed AK vs. AK. I don't think any of these students have seen any of these films. I'm also the co-creator and director of Sacred Games, which I believe you guys have seen without telling your parents. I was crazy about the movies. I was crazy about Amitabh Bachchan. You know, he was my hero. But there was no way that I would have actually joined the movies at that time. You know, I'm not from a film family. And movies at that point in time when you're studying in school is so far removed from your daily life, and in a script called The Inciting Incident, and that's what always starts off a film. And the inciting incident in my life or my filmmaking journey it's a surprise. You'll never get it, you'll never guess it. It was my parents' divorce, actually.
Things kind of just fell into place. I think that, again, there's a moment I wrote Udaan immediately after the sort of like after Bombay Talkies wasn't happening, and I was like, okay, this is. You figure, okay, you write a slightly kind of like scaled up film where you get a star and therefore it gets made, but of course, clearly that's not true in that moment. So I was like, okay, fine, I need to figure out my life, and then. So I was like, who am I? What's the stuff that I want to do? And I really wanted to tell this kind of like coming of age.
You want to scale it down? Was that something?
Scale down, also just tell a coming of age story. Just felt that, okay, you know, if I'm not being able to do the Bollywood thing, and I didn't want to do Bollywood. I didn't want to do song and dance and typical love story, because I always felt that if you're not making your first film as an extension of your own self, then really what is the point? If you're going to be a director for somebody else's story, to be able to sort of say it and you don't have control over the process, then why are you doing it in the first place? How is your voice coming out? Now people sort of seeing your voice.
The journey काफी मुश्किल रही है. We had a lot of problems in terms of getting the film made, in terms of how we had to go to Dalhousie and shoot. 3 बार जाना पड़ा. काफी 8-9 फुट बर्फ पड़ी थी और रणबीर की चोट हो गई थी, तो काफी दिक्कतें आई थी.
Last Leaf is a 4-page short story. This is a 2-hour plus film. So a lot of it is, but there is a lot that is new, is fresh, has changed. So it's inspired by The Last Leaf. It's not really an adaptation of The Last Leaf. So it's taking the theme and the thread, but it's our own film, our own screenplay.
तो अभी बाकी है. जंग तो एक्चुअल पिक्चर पे है. मतलब लोग आएंगे पिक्चर देखने के लिए, लेकिन अगर फ्राइडे वाले लोग पसंद नहीं करेंगे पिक्चर, तो सैटरडे संडे आएंगे नहीं लोग देखने के लिए. ना मतलब नहीं, मैसेजेस आ रहे हैं, लोग मुझे बोल रहे हैं कि they very touched by the film. Some people unexpectedly going to the theatre, not expecting, they're crying, they're coming out.
Your trailer has literally embodied every claustrophobic fear I have.
I'm not claustrophobic. I have a fear of rats, which is
there in the film. Yeah,
okay. That's what's coming through. I'm not claustrophobic.
And of course, there's a rat in the film, and I have a fear of rats. I was like, okay, this is the film for me. I have to kind of do this for to kind of get over my fear and stuff. I had like some time to shoot the film, and I asked him. I said, how much time do you have? He said, I have about 20 days. I said, great, that's all I need. I just need 20 days to shoot the film. Literally went in, shot, came out. I stripped down the screenplay completely, and literally we went in to shoot with a 35-page script, which is very normally it's 120 pages. We stripped it down to 35 pages. So just like, let's just go with the beats of what we really want. I figured we're going to improvise pretty much all the dialogue along the way, if at all. So yeah, part of it was me about saying that, okay, let's just after having gone through this entire process of full screenplays, what happens when you strip it down to its bare basics, and go inside with an actor who you trust and the actor trusts you, and say, let's go and discover ourselves in a way and see what we do out of this.
It wasn't difficult, it was a challenge. I think me and my cinematographer kind of set out saying that, let's try and make this the most interesting, quirky, entertaining kind of film possible. So I think, difficult because 10 दिन के बाद लगता है कि यार मैं मार दूंगा किसी को, या मतलब मुझे भी बाहर कूदना है ऐसे, that kind of stuff. But we had a great crew, and like जैसे राज कह रहा था ना कि because we were shooting in sequence, you're kind of like going on with the film every day, you're discovering new things, and मतलब कह रहा है झूठ कह रहा है, मतलब मेरे दिमाग कुछ नहीं था मेरे दिमाग में, मतलब everything was on the spot of the morning कि यार आज ये करेंगे. But it was a lovely challenge. I think it was very unique, and I had a great time shooting this film.
However, your next film is political.
My next film's not political. It's a film about standing up for justice. So whether justice comes in, it depends on whoever is
In power,
against
though,
and
right?
power. Yeah, but I mean, in this country, there's so many people in power.
But initially it was about corruption and
It was about corruption, yeah.
इसमें जो नाम आपने चूज़ किया है भावेश जोशी, इट्स अ वेरी कॉमन नेम, सो इसके पीछे का क्या रीज़न है, व्हाई यू चूज दिस?
It's because so first of all the name एक दोस्त था मेरा स्कूल में भावेश जोशी जो एकदम बहुत ही मतलब he was very naughty, extremely naughty. तो I used to get in trouble because of him. And it strangely होता है ना कि कभी-कभी एक दोस्त के मधु अनुराग you always take first names. उसके I don't know why we always call him by his full name. भावेश जोशी. So that name got stuck in my head. And somewhere जो आप कह रहे हैं वो सब सही कह रहे हैं ना कि एक बहुत ही common नाम है. And that's the whole point. It's about a common man and about common people trying to do something bigger.
The superhero genre, you can't stray from the cliche. It's about the superheroes are always about heroes. You'll always be about reluctant heroes who will not want to fight until they have to fight. It's the hero template. It's a superhero template which you can't fight that. You have to sort of embrace it. And I think that, I don't know, at some point in time we might reach superhero fatigue. I don't think we're there as yet. Maybe it's coming.
Oh yeah, we haven't even started.
Yeah. You're working within a box. And I think that's sort of normal. But that's also the fun of it, I think.
Do you have any regrets about Bhavesh?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, I've never said this publicly, but I think Bhavesh should have been a woman. I think Sikku's character should have been a woman's character.
एक्चुअली वो बहुत सारी सच बात बोलता नहीं है. इसको अपना पासपोर्ट बनवाना था. इसको पासपोर्ट बनने में 2-2.5 महीने लगे थे, इसलिए फिल्म बनी. अगर वो 2 दिन में पासपोर्ट मिल गया होता है फिल्म नहीं बनती. So उस समय इतना सारा एंगर था इसके अंदर.
Real inspiration behind Bhavesh Joshi.
और इतना सारा एंगर था इसके अंदर और वो एंगर को चैनलाइज करने के लिए मेरे पास आते थे तुम लोग. तो वैसे वहाँ से शुरू हुआ था.
But I was very happy with the film. I was happy with what I did on the film. I was delighted with my work as a director on the film. I thought it was, in terms of the action sequences and the bike chase and all those, those fight sequences, and at a deeper level, what one is trying to say about society and that kind of stuff. I was happy with it.
So first things first, I really want to know, was it Netflix who came to you guys with Sacred Games or was it the other way around?
It wasn't me. Sacred Games there was a lot of interest in doing it in Hollywood and as a TV show in the West, and I think it had done a few rounds of a lot of different studios and networks, and then Netflix picked up the rights, and then they got in touch with us because they were looking for a partner in India to make their first Indian edition. So they got in touch with us, and then after that we started working.
Second season as much as I liked the first. The first season was some of the newest and most interesting thing I'd ever seen on TV from any country. We lost the plot point with the guru, It became a bit esoteric and slow, I think.
Dude, what happened with Sacred Games too? And firstly, I mean, of course, it's a very safe thing to do. I mean, he'll say exactly what he feels. Did that really upset you that he could say this in public?
He is safe. You can't hold a grudge against things that he says. Yeah, he's safe. He's like that. He's okay. He speaks his mind. That's exactly the way he is, and we love him for that. I totally love him for that. I love the fact that he will say those kind of things. But the lovely thing is you can actually say those things back to him and
right.
kind of like,
and he'll take it.
And he'll take it,
yeah.
And he respects that, and we respect him. On season 1, we had the luxury, again, a little bit of luxury of time, and because Netflix, they said, okay, fine, we're going to do it. We got about a year to be able to write this stuff before you actually start shooting.
Fortunately, we started ending up pioneering everything. Whether it's a short film format on YouTube, or we were always somehow the first film of a studio, newly formed studio. Somehow, in the process, we have just become the first step. उसके जो pleasures हैं वो किसी और को मिलते थे, हमें कभी नहीं मिले. I think it was the first time we are actually seeing the success in front of us, and we are getting something back from it.
You as a showrunner, is that something as a novel concept, or how did you?
It is. I had to kind of Google it the first time I saw it to figure out No, but then you realize that you don't, when you see TV shows, when it says things like executive producer, created by, that kind of stuff, and especially like, for example, Breaking Bad. I mean, Vince Gilligan is one of my favorite creators. You realize what a showrunner actually sort of like means. Like, he just directed the first episode, everybody else, he got other directors on board after that. You set a tone. What Netflix calls, you're the constant creative voice in the show, in the sense that
It's just like it's coming. So you're basically sort of like taking creative calls and all that kind of stuff. It's a great role because you can be very objective about certain kind of things. You can
पता नहीं लिखते वक्त जब आप एक कैरेक्टर के कहानी के अंदर घुसते हो कभी लगता है कि मुझे ना निकलना नहीं है यहाँ से मुझे बस एक कहानी में मतलब you want to keep swimming in that story and I think this series format allows you to take more time with a character's arc. The camera work, it's the same crew as season 1. So Swapnil is the DOP on the Sartaj side, Sylvester is the DOP on the Nawaz side. And the crew is exactly the same. And I think the most important person for me is Aarti Bajaj, who's the editor of the series.
Yes.
She's absolutely fantastic.
She is fantastic.
Fantastic. I've had such a great time working with her over 2 seasons. And she really brings a lot of objectivity to it. A lot of great work, a lot of sharp work.
बुढ़ापे में आके इनको हीरो का रोल करना है.
Challenge was, I think we knew exactly what we were setting up for, but just hitting the right pitch, I think for me and for all of us actually was the toughest thing. That you have to hit the pitch where you feel that okay, this is real. Number one, it's entertaining. Number two, it's it's not feeling like it's acting. It's not feeling too studied, and just getting the right pitch was the toughest part. And I think through some of the writing process, the dialogue writing process, the rehearsals process, being on set and structuring it. And it's just while the plot is going to stay the same in a beginning, middle, ending in terms of the things are the same, we had to change the entire setup between why this fight is happening between these two family members, how to sort of like work those things in. And again, bringing the nuances, and I think what works beautifully, and which I don't know why I never saw it back then initially with Anil is and because you've seen the film, I can sort of like say this, the fact that when you actually sort of like say that in a perception of someone telling him that you're over the hill and someone telling him that you're over the hill, but they're both going out there to prove the fact that we're not.
Actually, I have a history.
Yeah, and that's what works really well. That I think that energy that came, and it's almost like when we thought of Anil sir, I was like, why didn't we think of this before? Why didn't this idea come before? It's almost like it's perfect, and I'm so glad it worked out this way because it really it works really well.
Avinash Sampath, the writer, sort of sent this sort of idea to us about a movie star and a filmmaker. Literally, what the script is. So he sent the idea, and then Avi and me sat. And we become really good friends right now. We sort of like work with him. Of course, that AKA, the actor AKA could have been multiple people.
Right,
and
it's the commonest.
It's the most common.
Yeah,
there's Amir.
Did you think of Amir first?
He wrote it for Amir first, and I was like, yeah, Amir is never going to do it. So let's not even try.
Don't even bother.
Don't even try. There was Akshay Kumar, who we did approach, and it was a very interesting meeting, which was a. I mean, interesting. I mean, he didn't sort of like outrightly say what to get out of my office, but close enough to say it.
ये चाय पियो और
you're like, wow, this is fantastic. It's like it's weirdly enough, it's what you fight when you're a young filmmaker, right? You fight the idea that your idea of what a film is cannot be encapsulated into one single line. And as you go older, you're like, you kind of have to do that because that one single line is what drives you forward. And that's what creates the excitement level. Those days are gone. I mean, a film barely completes 100 days in the theatres right now, leave alone 25 weeks and 50 weeks. So times have changed. So the word Jubilee automatically has a sense of being a word that belongs in a certain era and a certain period. And I think it fit in very well for us when we thought of a title, say that Jubilee, it means a celebration, it means a successful run of a film, it means a milestone, and it also has, a certain nostalgic value to it, which is why it just fit in really nicely. Those were intentional breaks. I think they just happened to be there. I think also, about 10 odd years ago, I was also a part of Phantom, one of the partners. So we were producing a lot more films. If you actually count what I've produced and directed, it's a lot of films. Yes, I did find later on that I wasn't directing as much as I wanted to. It's not like I've been busy all the time. So, and what also tends to happen is, at least in my thing, is that there's been every film for some reason or the other has always taken a long time to end up making. So the joke that we've always cracking is that it's always 7 years in the making. because that's just how it tends to happen. Write something and then you take time. So even this one actually, Jubilee has been in the making since 2016 actually.
Wow.
So this is one of those big. It was ready. The pilot was ready. We pitched it to Amazon. It was all good to go. Unfortunately or fortunately, another project happened which took my time, and then we were going to go with this in 2020. Pandemic happened. We lost an entire year and a half.
I think the overriding thing for us, always, Vatul and me, was always that characters have to come front and center. Everything else has to take a backseat when it comes to characters. Make a compelling drama that can be made in the 40s or the 50s or the 70s or the 80s or now, or if it's not the film industry, some other industry, but it's compelling. You're with these characters, you're following their journeys, and therefore everything else, you're kind of educating, but it's all happening while you don't even realize it.
मैं तुम्हारी मदद करने की पूरी कोशिश करूंगा। क्या तुम्हें पता है मैं क्या कर सकता हूं?
Ctrl is a pure genre project. It is a thriller. It's screen life based, which is very interesting. There's been a few screen life films.
Yeah.
There's been Searching, Missing, Unfriended, which are the more popular ones. And it's an interesting process because what we did for shooting this was mostly shot on iPhones. Actually, I think 80% of the film has been shot on an iPhone.
Was it odd on set? Because this is not like a traditional.
Yeah, like you don't have the multiple angles happening, and like
I was holding my own angle. Like I was holding an iPhone, and there was another iPhone taped
attached to it,
and then you could see yourself, and that iPhone was recording you, and it's just like I'm vlogging again.
Yeah.
This is.
No, it was also because I know multiple camera setups. The days would go by really quickly. So we shot this film in 16 days. In
the whole film,
days.
everything.
Yeah, everything in 16 days.
16 months of post-production.
Yeah, it's the after. But on the first night, we finished like some 20 pages or something. It was because it was all in one outfit. It was just Nella in her house, roaming around, having different conversations. So we finished a lot of the film in the first night actually, because there was no setup. It was literally just me holding the camera and like Pratik, who's our DP, like hiding somewhere below the bed, and he would just come and adjust something, and for like 16 minutes I'd just be holding two iPhones stuck together.
Wait, a bunch of the film is just shot on phones?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Oh, okay.
On iPhones, on screens. That's a screen life film.
It was Geek Central. Like the set was really like very nerdy. But everything, her image and anything is also being recorded on iPhones at 4K for us to be able to scale up, if you sort of like need that. Apar is in another room with a motion capture camera in front of him. That footage is going into Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is pumping it out to the Zoom call. I was like, I didn't want her to be talking to an actor. Let's have her actually talk to an AI character.
Take control of my life and happiness.
Welcome to Tihar. Cheer us up.
Well, the classic things that you would say for anything else, you're giving something that people have never seen before.
Yeah.
I guess top of the list is that it's
looks
unique.
like
It's not been seen before. Unique characters, great performances, great writing. Are you making a clinical show about
incarceration
system, jail, psychological evaluation of prisoners and of staff, or are we getting into
a human story?
A human story, exactly. I think that chasing the human story, I think, was something that, was my fear, and I think that now it's unfounded, of course.
Yeah.
Because that would have been the tendency had we gone and made a straight up, sort of grittier, grimmer kind of like look at it. So I think the deliberate approach was that since we don't want the audience to kind of go through that, other than one episode, where you really want them to sort of like take that. So the rest of it was a very like, okay, we get into it, we go deep, but let's surface immediately. Let's not try and stay too long in the depths. Let's not try and sort of like swim too much. So there was that was a very deliberate approach within the writing constantly. So as whether it's in episode 1 or whether it's in the other episodes, there's a constant sense of like you go deep and then you manage to pull yourself out of there. And then it really helps when you have multiple characters whose arcs you're following. Sometimes when the thing with a feature film, for example, or the thing when you have a singular character whose arc you're following, it gets a little bit. That tendency can happen, is that you can go home with that. But when you have other people, because not everybody's going through the same thing at the same time.
You're telling 4 years, so there is continuity but it's very light continuity. You just need to know where Sunil was in the previous episode, what his relationship with Dhaiya, for example, is, or what his state of mind is at the end of episode 5. That's all you kind of need to know, and you're jumping in from one to the other. And I think that really worked, and with different directors giving a different voice to each episode, tonally, I think is that because I've heard, and everybody tells me that it's so seamless, you can't tell one episode to the other who the director is, and I'm like, that's great. I mean, that's a fantastic compliment. Even though we weren't really going for that at some point in time, I think that there was you must express yourself through the episode.
Openness to it.
There's an openness to it. It doesn't have to be exactly this way. Music should change, whatever. Everything should be different. So yeah, I think I like the fact that it's turned out this way, and I like that sense of like each mini episode works by itself, but also works for a larger picture.